for your tireless work to tell us about the Buddha's word and explain them. And I want to extend my gratitude to everyone who helps you in this, especially Sarah and Jonathan and all those around you, like Metta and El and Kondurangden and all those who I don't know by name, and make it possible that I have the opportunity to be here and can listen and participate and attend. And thank you so much.
My great pity, Kun Gabby. My happy time.
Thank you, Ajahn. I begin again.
Is there any topic you would like to bring up or would like to listen to, Gabby?
Ajahn often said in these last sessions, it is important to know what dies and what is born and what is now. Could Ajahn elaborate a little bit about this topic? Thank you.
We're talking about the truth of the three moments, because each moment is so true, but no one knows the truth of it, even right now. That's why we begin to understand what should be known in life as it's so true, birth and death. What are they between the birth and death? It's now at this moment, and it's not known from moment to moment, but it can begin to understand what life is. And it has to be at this very moment, because if there is no understanding of the truth of this moment, there can never be the understanding of what is real and what is true in life. That's why I listen to the word about the truth and consider the truth of it, to be known about what is true and what is the truth of it, because it's there, but who knows? Seeing right now, sees, who knows? It's gone. What is seen is not anything or anybody at all, just that which is seen. And so just thinking about the truth of it's that which is seen. It's now how much understanding of that which is seen. See, does it last? Never. Because whatever conditions to arise, it's just in split seconds arising and falling away. Just learn to understand the truth, that's all in life. Because the truth is hidden each moment when there's no understanding of this moment as what it is. Not self, not I, not anything at all. If it's true, keep the truth, to be truthful to the truth, that only the truth can be known as it is. For example, seeing right now, it's not seeing just a moment ago, right? It's gone unknowingly each moment, and this is life. Moment of hearing, moment of seeing, moment of thinking, all gone unknowingly. And what is there now is not known, again and again, on and on and on, to the end of life. No understanding. Or now we talk about it to enroot the understanding of the truth that actually there is no I, no permanent I at all. There can be this personality as I only in this life, no more. And who knows when will it end, this personality as I, and what is the next moment? Because When a moment has gone, it conditions next moment instantly. So when this moment gone, it conditions the next moment instantly to be a different personality, person who knows what it will be and where it will be. We are going to the end of this life, to the place that we have to be there as what we don't know. And so this is very short life, starting from the moment after the death of last life. That's all. In fact, in truth, each moment dies, never to arise again. What's gone and never to arise. We use the term die, death, no more. So each moment is momentarily death, never to return, never to arise again. Just have the understanding of the truth, and right understanding works on its way to understand better, clearer and clearer of what is there unexpectedly. Like next moment is unexpectedly. What would be the next moment? Unknown. That's why I listen to the truth, just to the truth of this moment, no matter what we call it, this moment, or moment of seeing, or moment of experiencing that which is seen, it doesn't matter as long as it's now which can be known as it is. And one moment is so short. And there cannot be the sign or mark of anything without the arising of many moments, one after the other. Condition, memory, mark, remember, shape and form which is seen, and different sound which is heard, different taste, different touch, that's all. Different thinking. Unexpectedly, what would be the next moment of thinking? Who knows? This is letting go, clinging, attaching to that which is gone.
By conditions,
Or,
Ajahn.
And we
By
call
conditions.
it Dhamma, see, everywhere. Just learn to understand what appears as sound, gone. And can the understanding of the truth of this moment develop little by little to let go the different thinking of self, of something as usual. At the moment of touching, usually there's no awareness of the reality which is touch, and the touching, they're gone all the time. But now it's time not to forget, it's a moment in life that arises and falls away as other moments. The letting go of the idea of self and ignorance is so very subtle. And that is the path now with Parami, the development of Kusala, because Akusala cannot understand anything at all. So natural, so common, any moment.
By conditions, Ajahn. Right?
He understands the truth, the absolute truth. Any world, any life, any time, it's just like that.
Anything else you'd like to bring up, ask about while you have your microphone working, Gabby?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question here. Tin, would you like to bring up your question?
Thank you. So, hello. Oh, so my question discussion that Kun Eve and Kun Sarah talked about how when there is when the object impinges on the eye sense, the what is it called? The Vedana, when it's on the eye sense, the Vedana is indifferent, right? There's no pleasant and unpleasant. On the hearing, it's indifferent too. On tasting, smelling, it's indifferent too, correct? But on the sensational feeling, there is pleasant and unpleasant. Am I understanding this correctly? On the body sense.
Why do you call it on the sensational feeling?
Is the one of the 5 chitta on the body?
So the chitta is not on the body. The chitta experiences the tangible object, hot, cold, hardness, softness, motion that impinges on the body's sense. And that Vedana that arises with that moment of bodily experience is pleasant or unpleasant. I think that when we talk about bodily sensation, it's quite confusing. That's why I asked you what you meant, because are you referring to the nama or the rupa? Are you talking about the Vedana which experiences in a pleasant or unpleasant way, or the object that is experienced when you talk about bodily sensation?
I think, I'm not sure. I don't understand this like 100%, but like I think I meant the Vedana when it hasn't reached the door yet, when only like seeing, Vedana cannot is still indifferent. Do you know what I mean? Before it reaches the mind door.
And how long does the moment of seeing last in the eye door process? Because we're talking about many chittas that experience the visible object in the eye door process. How long does the moment of seeing last?
So when there is, I don't know names, but I don't know what all of them means, but there is Bhavanga Chitta, the 3 ones, and then there is the adverting sense, the Viti, well, in the Viti Chitta, there are 3 processes, right? And then after that, there's Javana, which is 7 moments.
So this moment of seeing after the adverting consciousness, the sense or adverting consciousness, seeing arises for how many of those moments?
And this one, I don't know.
Just one moment.
One moment.
Just one moment of vipaka result, followed by 2 more moments of vipaka, and then 1 more chitta, and then the 7 kusala or akusala chittas. So the seeing doesn't last until the mind or process. It's just one chitta in that process. One chitta which is result accompanied, as you say, by indifferent feeling. And the bodily experience is the same. It's just one chitta in the process. But the difference is because of the impact of the object on the body sense. It arises with either pleasant or unpleasant Vedana feeling. No bodily sensation, just the moment of bodily experience, the chitta accompanied by pleasant or unpleasant Vedana for one moment. So that's why when your father and I were chatting about painful, very, very painful feeling, actually it's just one moment arising with a bodily experience in that process. And at the other moments in that process, no painful feeling. And then Bhavanga chittas, then the mind or processes, no painful bodily feeling. So it helps to understand how very brief these such moments are, the feelings that we find so important and so attached to, have so much aversion to when it's painful, but it's just one moment, it doesn't last at all.
And I'm sorry, is this painful? This is the result of vipaka chitta.
Vipaka, it's the result of past karma. Yes.
And the chitta that's feeling this pain is the sensation, right? I'm sorry, please, I'm not sure.
So let's get back to seeing. So seeing arises and it experiences visible object. And as you said, is accompanied by indifferent feeling. What does that feeling, that Vedana experience that accompanies the seeing?
Its function is to feel pleasant, indifferent.
The feeling, the Vedana that arises with seeing, you said it's indifferent feeling. So what does that feeling that accompanies the moment of seeing, what does it experience? What is its object?
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll go back a step.
Okay.
Vedana, is it a nama or a rupa?
It's a nama.
And what is the difference between a nama and a rupa?
The nama can experience objects.
Right. So when it arises, it must experience an object. So when it arises with a chitta, the Vedana that arises with the chitta and the other cetasikas that arise with that chitta, what object do they experience?
So when it's seeing its visible object?
Yes. So what about the Vedana that arises with seeing? What is the object?
I don't know this one.
Okay. So the cetasikas that arise together with the chitta must experience exactly the same object. So the cetasikas that arise with seeing must experience visible object too. So the Vedana, the indifferent feeling that arises with seeing, experiences visible object with indifferent feeling. The sanya that arises with seeing marks the visible object as well. The concentration focuses on that visible object. The passa, the contact's visible object. They all have exactly the same object because they arise together, all conditioned by karma in the past. So when it comes to bodily experience, just the same, the Vedana that arises with the body consciousness, the pleasant or unpleasant Vedana, it experiences exactly the same object as the body consciousness. So what can be the object of body consciousness?
Where the body consciousness is hardness. and temperature. That's all I know for the body.
One more is motion,
Motion,
biodhatu.
motion, temperature, and pressure, hardness.
Hardness. Yes. Can it experience more than one at the same time?
No, only one.
One object
one
at a
moment,
time.
Yes.
So at that moment of bodily experience, for example, when touching the table, what is the object of the Vedana, the pleasant or unpleasant Vedana at that moment?
The hardness of the table.
Hardness,
the-
right? Exactly the same object as the bodily experience. What is the object of the passa, the contact at that moment?
The same object.
What is the object of the concentration, the ekagata at that moment?
I don't know what this is.
Concentration. So with every
Concentration.
chitta, there is a cetasika, ekagata, that focuses on one object. That's why only one object can be experienced, because it focuses on that object which the chitta and other cetasikas experience. So actually
Right.
there's this momentary concentration at every moment in life, focuses on that one object. So what is the object of that concentration that arises with bodily consciousness?
The hardness, the same object.
Same object, yes. So is there any sensation experienced?
There is
What is the sensation?
the hardness.
Okay,
experience.
why do you call hardness sensation?
Because it's what it is. The type of object that the sensation experience.
The type of object that sensation experiences. So
The
are you talking
body.
about the nama or the rupa now?
I'm talking about the nama.
You're talking about the bodily consciousness.
Yes.
So you're saying that the sensation is what is experienced, but now you're talking about the bodily consciousness, which is the chitta which experiences. So how can the bodily experience and the hardness both be sensation?
Oh, it's different thing, right?
So this is why from the very beginning we have to clearly distinguish between those realities which experience an object, the namas, and those realities that cannot experience anything, the rupas. So the bodily consciousness experiences, but why call consciousness sensation? And the rupa that is experienced, such as hardness, can never experience anything. It's just hardness, just that which is hard. So is it helpful to call what is hard sensation?
No, no.
Or are we mixing everything
We're
together?
missing everything
Yeah,
together.
okay. Okay, that's the point. Okay. A little clearer? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
good.
And it can but it's two different things. Yes.
Right.
The hardness is rupa.
Rupa. It
that
doesn't know anything.
doesn't know
It doesn't experience anything. It doesn't like anything. It doesn't care about the painful feeling. It has no interest in what the experiencing is. It's just hardness,
Right.
no experience of anything.
We don't talk about sensation at the eye door, do we?
No.
The ear door
No.
or the nose door, only at the body door.
Yes.
And well, we don't talk about sin, but people do talk about sensation at the body door for some reason. But it's not clear what the meaning is when they use the term.
Sense.
But now it's clear that the experiencing at the body door is the same as the experiencing at the other doorways, a consciousness experiencing a particular object that can only be experienced at that doorway. That's all.
So it's all the same.
Follows the same
It's-
pattern.
Follows the same pattern.
Yes, for all,
But different doors.
but different doors
different
and different
doors.
objects.
Right.
Each door has its particular object. Except in the case, of course, of the body door, there are three particular objects. But the reason why a doorway can experience a particular object is that each doorway has its own sense base, a special rupa that is sensitive to that particular object. So at the eye door, the eye base is a special rupa that if the visible object impinges on it, it is sensitive to that, and it is the condition for eye consciousness to arise and experience the object. And it's the same at the other doors.
Can I have one more question to follow up? Does when the object, the rupa object contacts the citta and vedana becomes pleasant, unpleasant, and indifferent, when does it happen? Like when does that arise? Or does it arise in every moment of
When
contact?
the visible object impinges on the eye sense, that is a condition for eye consciousness to arise. At that moment, those cetasikas also arise together with the eye consciousness, including the feeling
Feeling too.
as well.
Vedana,
Just for that moment. Yeah, feeling.
Does it feel like when contacting this object, does it feel pleasant? Can it feel pleasant or unpleasant?
The function of the Vedana is to taste the object. So it is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, depending, as we've said, in each of the sense doors, other than the body door, it'll be neutral feeling. So Vedana can only arise with citta, and it arises with every citta. So when that and there's only one moment of eye sense in a process. So after that one moment of eye consciousness experiencing the visible object, the rest of the cittas in the process continue on. And of course, there are some kusala or akusala cittas in that process. So, but they will experience the same object with, but not necessarily with neutral feeling.
No, in neutral feeling. What did you say? The last sentence. Sorry.
Neutral feeling
Neutral
is
feeling.
neither pleasant nor unpleasant.
Right.
Indifferent
Indifferent,
feeling.
indifferent.
Sorry, indifferent feeling is better term.
And if there is no visible object and no eye sense and no visible object that has impinged on the eye sense or contacted the eye sense, is it possible for seeing to arise?
No, not it.
So the conditions for seeing to arise are the visible object and the eye sense. If someone is completely blind, no eye sense, then no matter what visible objects are there, there cannot be any seeing.
Right.
Or if one is in a pitch black room and no light, then the visible objects as we know them now cannot be seen. So there must be the visible object that has impinged on the eye sense already in order for the seeing to arise. And when it arises accompanied by the indifferent or neutral feeling, the same, to experience that object. So for the arising of any reality such as seeing, there are many different conditions. So the visible object has to have impinged on the eye sense. The other cetasikas like pasa, which contacts the object, have to arise together with seeing. There has to be the past karma to condition that seeing at that moment. Many different conditions, and this all shows how anatta it is. No one can make seeing arise. No one can stop seeing from arising. No one can stop it from falling away immediately. So this is the same for every reality in life, arising by different conditions. no self-involved, no control at all, just arising for a moment, experiencing its object in the case of a nama and falling away immediately.
And I think there seems to be an idea, sometimes I get the impression of Vedana having a life of its own, that Vedana kind of arises and does things independently of other realities. But this is not correct. It always accompanies the citta that experiences an object, and it lasts for just as long as the citta lasts. It falls away every moment with the citta.
Does it accompany every citta or specific citta?
Every citta.
Every citta.
It's one of those we call universals. Accompanies every citta.
Like you said, the 5 khandha, right?
Say again.
The 5
Yes.
khandha, it
5
arises
khandhas?
all
Always.
at the same time.
Yes, always Vedana arising every moment, and always
yeah.
Sanya that we spoke about. 7 Chaitasikas that arise with every citta in life.
I need to read more. and
Could
I'll
I
come back
follow
with
up
more.
on that? What
Go ahead,
Jonathan just said? Could I just follow up? Thank you. Is there, we're talking sometimes about Kamapata, but is there the Chaitanya that has accumulated and caused the Vipaka, like say moments of hardness? Does that influence the intensity of such a moment and the intensity later of the chittas and the Vedana? How it is thought about that, like it's very painful or a little.
Could you just repeat it, Chanti, for Jan? She missed a part of the question.
Jonathan said Vedana seems to do what it likes. It doesn't. And it made me think that the whole citta with all chittasikas, in the case of hardness, is a result. It's vipaka. And I was wondering if such a small moment of hardness is experienced by citta and Vedana like intensive pain, high pain, has that to do with the accumulated chaitanya before the deeds done, and also the thinking of it later, the domanassa Vedana and the thinking chittas. Is there a relation between the accumulated karma and the intensity that is thought to be experienced? I know it's a story, but is there a relation there that it's less or more painful? Thank you.
I think that if we talk about just one reality at a time, there can be a little more understanding of what we're talking about. For example, now, shall we talk about the feeling, Vedana? Is that what your question is, or other matter?
Perhaps
Yes, it is.
is it about
Yeah, you can say, Sarah.
intensity of the hardness, which would you like to talk about?
Yes.
The Vedana? The hardness.
I think it's the Vedana, yes, but yes, the Vedana, the intensity, the thinking.
Shanti, are you talking about Shanti? Are you talking about the intensity of either the hardness or the Vedana, because the result from the karma? Any relationship between the degree of karma and the result of vipaka? Is that the question?
Yes, I know that the only thing that experiences or thing is the chitta and the Vedana. In this case, so not the Rupa. So I'm interested in what reality is behind thinking that this pain is very intense, or this pain is...
So what about the example we had this morning, which Jagrit and I were talking about, when there's very painful bodily experience? So hardness is the object of the experience, hardness or temperature. And the hardness or the temperature, each hardness or temperature is different. And it depends on what hardness has impinged on the body sense. And it depends on what karma from the past conditions that chitta, that akusala vipaka, with very painful feeling to experience that object. So what you call the intensity of what is experienced, because the hardness that is just like when tapping the table, the Vedana that accompanies the bodily experience, it may be unpleasant, but very mildly so. So it depends on different conditions as to why the painful bodily feeling at that moment is so strong. And obviously the main reason is the past karma that conditions that chitta and Vedana, but also the nature of the Rupa itself, the undesirable object that has impinged on the body sense, ready for that chitta and painful bodily feeling to experience it. But when you start talking about and then thinking later about it, well, that's another story completely, because we're just talking about the moment of experiencing the hardness. So
yes, I realize.
Sometimes the experiencing of the hardness can be with very slight pleasant feeling, sometimes a very slight unpleasant feeling, sometimes a very strong pleasant feeling, sometimes a very painful bodily feeling.
Thank you. That was very clear. So you said that answers my question. There is karma that influences this. I didn't think that Rupa also influenced it, because I thought it wasn't inherent in a Rupa how it will be experienced. But okay.
So the Rupa, for example, touching a very landing on a very sharp, falling on a sharp object, the hardness that is experienced at that moment is different from the hardness at this moment of touching the table. It's conditioned by the other, by the Mahabhuta Rupas at that moment, which condition that hardness to be that particular way. And that is a condition for what we call the very painful bodily feeling with the chitta. But it has to have been conditioned by past karma to experience that particular hardness, not another one.
Yes, thank you very much. At the moment, I realize I'm thinking, and it's a story, and my father is in a dying process, and I'm following this, and more pain. And that's how it realized for me. It's just concepts. To finish, I heard Jan say a very good sentence that stuck with me, that I think it was yesterday. What we think, I do it from my head, so I'm not sure I quote well. What we think is the past, is the thought now. Did I say that correctly?
Is the Vedana now? We just talked about
Yes.
it. So is the Vedana now?
Yes.
We can say that it's done. But can anyone understand Vedana right now as not sound, as just a reality? That's why no matter we talk about Vedana a lot, it can condition moment of understanding Vedana right now. This is the point of studying or talking about Vedana. Otherwise, it doesn't lead to understand Vedana right now. So it's useless. But when we talk about Vedana, the feeling, there is feeling now, but it does not yet known as it is. So we talk about it on and on, more and more, to understand the truth of it, in order that at any moment there can be understanding directly of Vedana right then. Because we know how many kinds of Vedana and what is Vedana, enough to understand that which appears. That's why let's talk about Vedana now, because no one knows Vedana right now. There can be moment of understanding Vedana when we have more understanding of it as just a reality arising at each moment in life. Is there any moment without Vedana right now? Is there any moment without Vedana right now? No. Is it known? Not yet. So let's talk about different kinds of Vedana which arises with different citta. Can Vedana be vipaka? See, even it's just a feeling, it can be different kind because it's not kusala or akusala when it's there by conditions to be vipaka. So karma condition, citta and cetasika arising together. So at moment of citta is vipaka, all cetasikas arising with the citta must be vipaka as well. And at this moment of seeing, without karma, can there be this very moment of seeing? But we don't know what karma. That's why karma is always hidden. And the result of karma, when it's there, unknown from what, of which karma in what life. And we just learn to understand that as long as there are mental factors and the citta, there must be Vedana as a mental factor. Because as soon as there is a moment of experiencing an object, Vedana arises to experience it with feeling. There must feeling towards that object. So at moment of seeing, one moment of seeing, and the object which is seen, the moment of seeing that object is conditioned by one karma. Just to see that object, unavoidable, it's already there by conditions, which is karma. So at moment of seeing, that which impinge on the eyelids is not hard, not soft, not hot, not cold. So it can condition the indifferent feeling or upekha vedana only. It doesn't be pain or anything at all. At moment of touching, slightly, very slight. When reality appears, it's not as just big as a lot of something big or large enough, just very, very, very little. Even what we take for hardness is not as hard as when there are many moments of experiencing hardness to be known that it's hard. But when it's just broken away little by little, only the moment of touching, it's not many moments, only one moment, it's not as hard as we take it when there are many moments. But still, as hardness is Mahabhuta Rupa, the contact is different from the Rupa, which is not Mahabhuta Rupa, impinge on the others, which is not Mahabhuta Rupa either. That's why it can condition only indifferent feeling. For seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, but touching is different. That's why no matter it is painful feeling, pleasant feeling, conditioned by karma, to experience such hardness, softness, a very pleasant object by karma. So Vedana, which arises with the five sense door, must be different at moment of touching. For the other four doorway, they have to be indifferent feeling. Can there be the understanding of feeling right now at moment of seeing? It's not painful, or it's not pleasant, but it's just indifferent, so short, so very light, not as the Mahabhuta Rupa, the four primary rupas. So there can be the understanding at any moment of seeing by condition, by karma, to see no matter pleasant object or unpleasant object, by karma, see, no trouble, as much as before, to know that not by anyone's will, but by karma, unavoidable. It's there already by karma. And can Vedana be kusala? And this is vipaka, see. So at moment of birth, the birth consciousness, Vedana is what? It can be pleasant or unpleasant depending on karma. That's why we learn a little bit to understand what is Vedana. So it can be moment of understanding Vedana right now as different from that which experiences the object, the chief of experiencing Citta and other Jessica, like Sanya. Sanya cannot feel. It just mark and remember. So we begin to understand that all dhammas cannot be taken for self, just in a moment, conditioned, arising and falling, never to return. And more Vedana, that's enough. Bodily, painful feeling, and pleasant bodily feeling, different from painful mental feeling, and very pleasant mental feeling. It can be painful, and it can be known. At moment of thinking a lot about trouble, what about the Vedana? Unpleasant for sure. That's why it can be the object of understanding. When there is understanding the nature of it, the feeling itself. Usually when there's no understanding, we take feeling for I. So painful, I'm so very painful, or even painful mental factor. Someone cannot bear at all. But for someone, the body is painful, that person cannot bear, but the mental painful feeling, they can be patient. That's why, depending on conditions, the accumulation. So one realizes one's own accumulation, what kind of feeling you can bear, mental or bodily. See, just like me. Because for bodily painful feeling is so pain, but the mental, all right, we can understand the nature of it as not permanent at all, something like that. But for painful feeling, we have to cure, treatment, doctor, and so on. But when it's conditioned by karma, it cannot be cured. That's why we understand more about feeling, that which can be cured, even it's painful bodily feeling. But when it's conditioned by karma, no matter who's the doctor, cannot cure that at all. As long as karma condition is resolved in health, who will cure the bodily painful feeling? Impossible. I do not like even taking vaccine, something like that. Oh, I cannot do that at all. If there are other people, let them do. What I cannot bear is the sound, the voice of crying. So painful. That person must be so very, very sad that can condition such crying. Different conditions.
So before we talked about 3 kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling. And we talked about how at moments of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, there is neutral feeling, but at moments of bodily experience, pleasant or unpleasant bodily feeling. Another way to classify feelings is 5-fold. So there are neutral or indifferent feelings, pleasant or unpleasant bodily feelings, and then pleasant mental feeling. So like now, whilst thinking about the pleasant environment or about the Dhamma, it is pleasant. We can call it pleasant mental feeling. Actually, every Vedana is mental, but we're distinguishing the pleasant feeling which arises at other moments, not at the moments of bodily experience, with the pleasant bodily feeling. And the 5th one is the unpleasant mental feeling. These are somanassa and domanassa. So when there is aversion or annoyance of any kind, there is always unpleasant mental feeling, domanassa, when one's being irritated by the insects, or when it's a bit too hot or a bit uncomfortable, or when one's thinking about the painful feeling, then it is unpleasant mental feeling. So even the Buddha and the Arahats had to experience painful bodily feeling and unpleasant bodily feeling, but no more domanassa, no more unpleasant mental feeling. And the pleasant mental feeling, it can arise with moments of attachment when one's feeling so sabai, enjoying oneself. It can also arise with moments of wholesomeness, like when Ajahn said, oh, so much pity or gladness to be here discussing the Dhamma, pleasant feeling with that joy at this moment. So these are 5 kinds of feeling, and it's about now, like right now, different moments of pleasant bodily feeling, unpleasant bodily feeling, neutral feeling, moments of attachment or pleasant feeling, moments of being disturbed or not liking something with unpleasant feeling. So it's daily life at this moment. But these are all Vedana that experience the same object as the citta they accompany, not sensations. Yes.
So Vedana is whatever.
I
Hello?
lost
Hello?
the connection. Thank you. Oh, I don't know if I'm still the questioner.
Hello. I'm gonna ask
So-
a quick question.
Can you hear Tin, Shanti? Speak a bit louder.
Hello. Hello. Can you
Yes,
hear me? Oh, okay.
yes,
So,
very well.
I'm just reviewing what I understand from what Sarah and Ajahn just said, but Vedana is mental feeling, like pleasant or unpleasant to the object that it receives from the 5 senses, right? And
Or neutral feeling.
neutral feeling, three types of feelings, and then there's another type of feeling which is bodily feeling, right?
You were talking about the feeling that arises with the kinds of cittas, the consciousness which experience objects through the 5 sense doors. So as we discussed, the Vedana that arises with seeing, hearing, smelling and tasting is neutral feeling. And the last one, the bodily experience, also experiences through a sense door, through the body sense door, and it experiences the tangible object with pleasant or unpleasant bodily consciousness, pleasant or unpleasant Vedana with the body consciousness. So those are 3 kinds of Vedana: the neutral feeling, the pleasant or unpleasant Vedana that arises with body consciousness, and then 2 more kinds of Vedana that arise with other kinds of cittas when it is pleasant or unpleasant. Sometimes it's also neutral feeling, but we have already mentioned neutral feeling, but we're distinguishing between the pleasant bodily feeling and the pleasant feeling that arises at other moments, such as with attachment or such as with kusala cittas, and the unpleasant feeling that arises with dosa, with aversion or any kind of annoyance. That is unpleasant feeling, different from the bodily unpleasant feeling. The bodily unpleasant feeling and the bodily consciousness are the result of karma. So even the Buddha experienced that kind of unpleasant bodily feeling, but the other kind of unpleasant feeling, the domanassa that arises with the dosa, with the aversion, this is the unpleasant feeling that is accumulated, not the result of karma. And this is the kind of feeling that is eradicated when attachment to sense objects is eradicated.
Just to clarify, the moments of feeling that Sarah was referring to as mental feeling, they don't have to have a sensed or object. One can have a attachment to a memory or a joke that someone told, or you can be angry because of just having unpleasant thoughts or a nightmare or something like that. So not related to the experiencing of a sensed or object at all. Can have a concept as an object. Yeah.
It can create its own object, right? Like, sorry.
Not the feeling doesn't create its object, no. The feeling always accompanies the citta, and you can say that citta creates the concept, but the Vedana accompanies the citta and experiences the same object as the citta.
Like you said, it's taste, right? Its function is to taste.
To taste the object, yes. But when it's a concept, then it's, I don't know how you relate it in that sense, but if the memory, for example, is a pleasant one, then even from the distant past, so not related to anything that's going on at the moment, say one is daydreaming, right, then the object, the feeling has that memory, that concept as its object.
Okay.
About mangoes, pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling?
Pleasant feeling.
Pleasant feeling. So it's a memory, yeah.
Yes. Only
Because of
happens in here.
sanya conditioning that thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could we elaborate on that last sentence of Jonathan? Vedana, so feeling has the concept or memory as its object. For example, like my father, he has many moments of hardship, but the interesting thing here is that he forgets. So that shows the difference. Of course, this is still story. So he cannot say how his condition, physical condition is, and completely believes that he's fine. No idea of dying, because every time pain has gone, he cannot remember this. But
right.
for
As
me,
you say, lots of stories, Shanti, and the stories are created by the citta according to accumulated tendencies. And
yes, but for me, the memory of this story is creating attachment or the opposite version, and
And for you, it's the same. The attachment or aversion is by accumulated tendency, not by virtue of memory. Memory doesn't create attachment or aversion or anything like that. So it's it's the accumulated tendency.
But you said that feeling has this memory as its object, or the concept as its object.
Yes,
So
the
is that
same object as the citta, the consciousness that's thinking about the story.
right? So at the moment that I'm having problems with the memory of the story about my father, there's chittas arising, thinking, of course, with Vedana, and they have this memory, this story as object. Could you say it more, because it's still not very, very clear, but it's very important to hear from me.
Thank you, Shanti.
I would like to,
When you speak, can you take your mask off? Difficult. Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to have some elaboration about Vedana. As we discussed, Vedana that arise with the sense door, 5 sense door. We have 4 sense door that Vedana is neutral on the eye door, on the ear door, on the nose door, and the taste door. Sorry, can I just interrupt 20 seconds? When we said a door, actually you are talking about a base, because when you talk about an eye door, there are more than just the seeing or hearing. So there could be other different Vedana there. So you mean the 5 sense base, right? Not a sense door feeling. You're talking about a feeling in eye arise at base, right? Not an eye door process. That's many chitta there. Oh, I see. So I focus on the, just to clarify, right? Thank you. I focus on the chitta, the seeing. Okay, the chitta, the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. The Vedana that's arrived with this chitta is always neutral or indifferent Vedana, indifferent feeling. But sometimes we think that when the visible object is so strong, we sense that, yes, it's so strong, and sometimes the noise so loud, smell so bad, and the taste so bad. So we think that the Vedana that accumulate with seeing, hearing, smelling, touching is not neutral at all, because we feel bad. The feeling is bad. So how can we distinguish this understanding that is different from the body sense? Because only body sense that Vedana is painful or pleasant feeling. But in this situation, what we can describe it, the right way of thinking about this.
The unpleasant feeling appears then that would be the object of any awareness, if awareness arises. But we don't have to try and discern the difference that you're talking about. If we're looking to see, oh, is this feeling arising with the seeing consciousness, or is it the feeling that arises in the mind or process after the thinking consciousness? That is not the approach that the Buddha taught, because his approach was one of understanding the reality that is appearing at the present moment. So fortunately for us, we don't need to concern ourselves with distinguishing and getting it right in that sense. But we keep in mind, of course, that there is a difference. But whether or when that difference is directly known by understanding is up to conditions. And it may be sooner, or it may be later, or it may be never in this lifetime anyway.
And I think usually we mix up all the doorways, for example, when seeing a visible object when there's strong light and it seems that the effect is painful and there's unpleasant feeling, because actually in between are also moments of bodily experience with unpleasant feeling at that moment when the effect is painful on the eyes. So not just moments of seeing, but also, I mean, of course, many moments of mind or experiencing, but also moments of bodily experience in between. And it's the same when hearing a loud noise. It's not just hearing the sound and mind or processes. There are also moments of bodily experience, like I'm quite sensitive to noise. So if it seems so loud, it's actually quite painful for me, because moments of bodily experience of unpleasant bodily feeling as well at those moments. So many different teachers, not just what we take for seeing is kind of a conventional idea, but actually countless different processes which we tend to lump together. I wanted to ask Nina if you have anything you would like to bring up, or if you'd like to address Ajahn today. Oh, I see, I can't see.
Nina may have slipped away for a moment, so if anyone else wants to bring up anything.
Dream, do you have your question? Anything you'd like to bring up today? No. Anything that's not clear, or anything? Maybe about the same. So maybe
Hello. Yeah. So maybe about the same Vedana subject. We were arguing back at the house about because my father said that for bodily feeling there could only be pleasant or unpleasant, but they couldn't be neutral. But other than that, they feel neutral. So like my question would be, how so? Why can't I feel like, oh, this is hard, and I'm sitting right now and I feel okay with where I'm sitting because there's like a cushions. Maybe that's feeling of okay is actually a pleasant feeling.
because it can be very slight pleasant feeling or very slight unpleasant feeling. And as Ajahn mentioned before, when it is a case of experience through the body sense, it is one of the Mahabhuta rupas, experience, one of the primary rupas, heat, cold, hardness, softness, or motion. And the impact of those rupas on the body sense is greater than when it is the impact of the visible object impinging on the eye sense. So it is always pleasant or unpleasant bodily feeling. at that moment, and with the others neutral feeling. But that's not all the story. It doesn't mean when it's not pleasant feeling with that or unpleasant feeling, the body sense, every other chitta arises with neutral feeling, because as we've discussed, when kusala or akusala chittas arise, they can arise with pleasant mental feeling, indifferent feeling, or unpleasant feeling. When attachment arises, like now, either pleasant feeling or indifferent feeling. When aversion arises, always unpleasant feeling. When kusala arises, pleasant feeling, or if it's very slight, indifferent feeling. So we were just talking about the Vedana that arises with the chittas which experience through the sense doors. When we said only pleasant or unpleasant bodily feeling, otherwise neutral feeling.
And also we need to keep in mind that feeling can be very weak. So if it's very weak feeling, then we may take it for, say, neutral when it's related to the body. For example, not only is there impingement on the body sense where we're sitting, but there's also impingement on the body sense in other parts of the body right now too, because the air could feel hot or cold or neither, neutral we would say, but that's just like a rough estimate, because there's not the strong awareness, highly developed awareness that knows directly and deeply each moment. So we just, although it may seem that there can be neutral feeling through the body sense, it's just an approximation for us, or it might be even thinking about the actual, not the moment of experiencing it all, but thinking, if one feels comfortable, that's can be thinking about the feeling that has been experienced rather than the experiencing, thinking about the object that has been experienced rather than the actual moment of experiencing. So it's complicated.
The difficulty with the Buddha's teachings when we study it is because we're used to our own way of thinking, like we're used to thinking, I see, I hear. We're used to thinking that I see a very pleasant object with pleasant feeling, or a very unpleasant object with unpleasant feeling. We're used to thinking that sometimes when seeing and the light is so strong and it's painful, that's a very unpleasant feeling at that moment. And so the point of studying the teachings is to understand that most of our preconceptions and ideas are completely wrong. So that's why we have to listen and study very carefully in quite a lot of detail to understand that actually there are just these particular dhammas as taught by the Buddha, not all of which can be understood at all. Like we might think seeing is the condition for visible object, but actually visible object is a condition for seeing. So we have to study and consider what the reason is, and impossible to understand everything. So we just learn what the Buddha taught with an open mind and consider it, but not to try and pinpoint, such as saying, oh, now is it pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling, or can I find the neutral feeling of seeing? Not that way at all, because that again is back to me and my experience, not just understanding what is taught, considering carefully at an intellectual level, which only that can condition a direct understanding of what appears now. So the teachings are so subtle, and more subtle the more one considers.
Just a quick comment about the feeling when it's indifferent. Sometimes people can mistaken as calmness, right? So it's not. Okay. And related question maybe for Tim, you were asking at the beginning to confirm the feeling arrives at the 5 different sense spaces. 4 are indifferent, and then 1 is pleasant or unpleasant, right? And then you were asking about the karma condition, the feeling. So just a question for you. If someone opened the door and knock on you and you feel painful, would that be that person's fault? Or who should be responsible for the painful feeling?
The chitta that experiences.
Is that the chitta's fault? The chitta that experienced the pain, the hardness. If there is something to be blamed, what is that?
The karma.
Yes.
Of
The
Very
past
good.
bad deed, right? The past bad
karma,
deed, right?
yes.
It's not the
So
other
it's-
person's fault to knock on your head.
No, it's karma. But
Okay.
can you? I know the answer because I've been listening, but like I don't understand, like completely. Maybe I have to go.
Because law of karma has the, there's a timing difference for the action taken and the result mature.
Tell me, that's that too.
Mhm. Okay, maybe that's for Sarah to explain.
So as we mentioned, the seeing now, the hearing now, the bodily experience now, with very painful feeling even, is a result of past karma. So if one steps on a very sharp object, the fault is not, as we might conventionally think, the person who put it in the way, but it's past karma that conditions that bodily experience with painful feeling at that moment. And what about when there is strong dosa with strong unpleasant mental feeling, strong domatnasa? Maybe someone gets angry with one, or maybe the food isn't as one likes, or maybe the arrangements are not as one thinks they should be in a strong dosa with unpleasant feeling. Who or what does one blame for that unpleasant feeling? If one's going to blame anything or anyone.
When there's a moment of dosa.
When there's dosa with an unpleasant feeling. What is the cause of that dosa with unpleasant feeling?
Vipaka.
That is not vipaka anymore. So the bodily experience with unpleasant bodily feeling is vipaka, the result of karma. But the dosa with the unpleasant feeling is conditioned by that habit of dosa, which has been accumulated with unpleasant feeling, so that there can be irritation of anything at that moment with unpleasant feeling. So the cause is in the past, the dosa in the past, conditioned by ignorance and attachment to having things the way we like. So when it's not the way we like, there is dosa with unpleasant feeling. So no thing, no one to blame. The cause is the ignorance and attachment, which conditions that dosa and unpleasant feeling.
It's like it's like a tendency, right?
A
But
tendency, exactly right.
No
And
one,
even when, like now, there's no dosa, but that tendency is there, carried from chitta to chitta, ready to condition that dosa and unpleasant feeling out of the blue at any time. Everything may be just so pleasant and comfortable, and then one's bitten by a mosquito, dosa and unpleasant feeling instantly. So that tendency conditions the dosa anytime.
And the problem is the tendency, not the result of the past
Result.
karma. The real, that's the tendency need to be purified.
And is it my dosa? Is it my unpleasant feeling?
No,
Who does it belong to?
no one.
No one. It's just a
Yeah.
dharma that arises and falls away instantly. Does it last? Does the unpleasant feeling last?
No.
Falls away immediately. So anytime your father talks about painful feeling lasting, you can say just for a moment and then gone. Doesn't last.
will.
Do you want to ask Nina if she'd like to?
I like to add something.
Yes, go ahead, Nina. We were just thinking you might have a question, so please go ahead.
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead, Nina. We were just thinking you might be ready to ask a question. So
When the feeling is so strong and painful, like today, it was my time to have painful feeling. And then it seems like immediately there's dosa, automatically it seems to arise. No thought of any cause or thinking about the feeling, but just dosa because of that pain. So it's anatta and non-self by conditions. But I don't think of any tendency or so, but just the dosa is so strong. And it shows also that we attach so much to feeling, because feeling is a separate khandha, like memory also is a separate khandha.
All conditioned Dhamma. Right? Even dosa cannot arise by itself.
No. It must be conditioned.
Right? Dosa is very important, or feeling is very important, right then, at moment of dosa.
So the feeling is so important. We cling so much to the feeling.
Mm-hmm. If the feeling is present, no one cares about it. But when it's unpleasant, no one likes it.
Nobody likes it, no. And pain, strong pain is so disagreeable that you can hardly move.
And can attachment attach to dosa?
Excuse me, I didn't get it, the last sentence.
Can attachment of lopa is attached to dosa?
Attached to dosa, but no, we don't like it.
So can the unpleasant feeling be object of attachment?
A pleasant feeling. No, I don't think so. Nobody likes it.
Is there any understanding of dosa as of mind?
The understanding of dosa. No, because we are so taken in by the dosa and you can't think of anything else.
So it's still my dosa, right?
I did not get the question.
It's my dosa, it's your dosa, it's someone's dosa, right?
My dosa, yeah. But
So
I
it's
don't know much about it.
dosa.
Nina, what I understood Ajahn to be saying was that it can be still an object of attachment because it's my dosa, even though it's very unpleasant. We can be attached to it.
And not to the
I think
dosa.
Yes, I think so. It's my dosa.
What are the objects that can never be the object of attachment?
I did not get the last question.
What are the objects that can never be the object of attachment, as the Buddha taught?
Oh, that is Nibbana, and Lokuttara Citta can never be.
Yes,
the
so
object of
every
attachment.
other object can be the object of attachment.
We know in theory. We know in
Earlier
theory.
this morning, Jagrit was talking about liking to have painful bodily feeling to be aware of it. Jagrit, would you like to speak to Nina? Can there be attachment to painful feeling, Jagrit?
Hello, Nina.
Hello. I like to listen to you. I'm so glad to see you.
Many years ago, I ordained as a monk and stay in the monkhood for about a month. And every day I practice awareness of painful feeling. We meditate for many hours to feel pain. Sometimes we walk for many hours to feel the same thing is painful, and we aware about these feelings. Sometimes we fast for about 3 or 4 days, and we were looking for this painful feeling to arrive. So I think these practices show that this painful feeling be the object of those lobha, because we waiting for it to happen, and we not like it to last quickly. So I think the object of lobha can be a dosa or painful feeling as well.
I think at different moments, because each moment is so short and gone immediately.
I think, Nina, that there's a difference between chitta with lobha arising and chitta with dosa arising. They cannot arise at the same time, but dosa can be object. That's something else.
At another moment, yeah.
Well said, Shanti.
Then accept that which kill it. Right. Yeah, Loba knows that cannot kill it, is not going to cling to it.
Kills it or kills it?
Kill it, right.
I'm sorry, Vince, can you just repeat what you said? I'm not quite following.
Oh, sorry. Loba is so smart, it cling to everything except that which cannot kill it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And only the Lokuttara Chittas kill it completely. The Lokuttara Chittas that arise at the stage of Anagami that completely kill the latent tendency of dosa. So they cannot be object clinging to the Lokuttara Chittas. I have a question.
About the Vedana, back to the Vedana, is when we consider as India. So, which moment we can consider as India? For example, as a Vipaka Chitta, the indifferent feeling cannot be India, right?
What's the meaning of India?
It's a controllable factor to lead other factor. I mean that it's a factor can control the others Dhamma.
Can anyone be controlled?
No, it's not really it's the meaning, but can lead other factor, leading factor.
Indriya. How many indriyas are there?
You mean the Vedana or another Indriya?
Okay. We are talking about indriya now.
Yes.
So we have to understand what's meant by indriya and what kind of reality is indriya. Not all kinds.
Not all kinds. Like a five sense now is five sense base is Indriyas.
Why is indriya?
Because without it, the seeing, hearing, touching cannot arise.
So important for seeing.
Yes.
And for visible object to appear.
Yes. But for
So
Vedana,
it's as the other rupa, right? Because the other rupa cannot be indriya, only some can and some cannot.
yes.
So what do you think in terms of indriya? The word indriya, what does it mean? The word indriya.
It's a leader. Indriya.
A very important
They are
factor.
very important factors.
Faculty?
You
No.
can use faculty.
Yes,
Yeah,
but no
faculty.
understanding. So we use the word that can bring the understanding of
The
this
very
reality.
important Dhamma, which conditions other Dhammas, yes. Like we just talked about, the Vedana was conditioned for attachment instantly because we find the Vedana so important.
Yes. So the important is mean it's a moment of the attachment. So Vedana is very important at that moment.
It's great. It's great.
It's great. Great or great?
Great.
Great.
Great. And cannot.
I suppose relative to other realities, yes.
To be great.
It's not very clear to me
I see.
what it would mean, whether it means great in terms of size or influence or
I see.
but leader seems to mean that
Can there be many leaders together? Or just one, which is the leader at a time?
no, there can be more than one leader at a
They are
time.
all leaders.
Yes, I think they are. I don't know, John.
What about the eagle? It's greater than the other bird, or it has some significance, or what?
Or the elephant. I don't know.
What do you consider?
Well, Ajah's question is, can we use the term great for faculty or indriya?
Yeah, I believe we totally can, because the word in Thai is pra-in, he is the most powerful. He's often described as, the most powerful. So indriya certainly can be just translated in lots of ways. Faculty is sometimes, but it is definitely a power. It's a powerhouse. It's very, very strong. So there's no reason why it can't be described as a power.
Usually we use power for bala, which is stronger. For example, the virya, which is a bala, is stronger, much stronger than the virya, which is an indriya. So I think it's great is fine, or I think important is maybe better, or leading. Important, the important condition.
That's why We better use the term Indriya.
Indriya, yes.
Mhm.
There's
Maybe Sundra, you could help explain it comes from Indra, right? Indriya came from the Indra, who like in charge of the raining, thundering, lightning, that kind of power.
Totally, yeah, that's where it came from. In Thai, they call Pra'in. Yeah, sorry, it's meant to think to, yeah, Pra'in. So he was the most powerful of the gods, Indra. So that's where, no doubt, it's a Vedic term also. So no doubt, and I think what's been suggested, probably stick to Indriya, because people get confused with when we talk Bala. So, there can be confusion. So just stick to Indriya, but that's where it came from, because he was the most powerful of the gods in that Vedic times. And no doubt that word just moved over into, with the Buddha used that word, and because people were familiar with that sense of power that Indra had. So, yeah. But again, I think it's always important, John always says, and I think it's always a great reminder to us all, that the reality is not the word. And it's really important to appreciate that. I feel we can get tied up with using this word for that word, or this translation for that word, or whatever. But it's always important to realize that the word is not the reality.
And the way, Vincent, what the word came from may be one thing, but the way the Buddha that has its own meaning as taught by the Buddha. So what was considered as powerful or a leader before the Buddha's time is different from Indriya as used by the Buddha. So we were talking about the sense spaces as leaders or Indriyas. So quite different from the idea of a powerful being or powerful God or powerful person. So the sense spaces are Indriyas. And then the question is, what about different kinds of Vedana?
Right, but sorry, just quickly back to Ajah's question about can we have more than one leader at one time? I thought about it, probably not at the moment of seeing, even though Chitta is also Indriya, but at that moment, only the eye sense is an Indriya. Can we say that?
On function. Nobody can perform that function
Right,
as that person.
Right. So at that time, it's dominating. It's more important than the Vedana at that time. In terms of the moment of seeing to happen. So no more than one leader at a time.
What about the moment of right understanding, a moment of satipatthana? What about a moment of satipatthana? Sati is an Indriya, Panya is a Indriya, Virya is a leader. Many Indriyas arising together, experiencing the object. And what about Vedana, as we discussed before? Why it is a khandha?
So another question, why that's a khandha?
No, the question is, we've talked about the importance of Vedana and why it's a khandha, because it's the object of attachment instantly. Life is spent looking for pleasant feelings, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So what about if Vedana is so important or so great, what about Vedana as an Indriya? No matter what sense space the Chitta is experiencing its object.
Okay. So
can we understand the Indriya as powerful?
I think also Tanajan is I totally think that's an appropriate word, because we've got those Indriyas, the ones we've called anindriyam nasami iti indriyam, so we're talking about the sense which says I will know what is not known, and and this is explained to mean Sotapati Magga. And then we've got, of course, the ones that refer to Sotapati Magga to Anagami Magga. And then the last one, which refers to the Arahata. So we can certainly sense that, we can certainly appreciate there that those indriyas are very, very, very powerful, because they relate to relate to the Arya Magga and Pala also. So yeah, but I can see also Sarah's point about the word bala. We have these translations, but and they can mean power, but those indriyas which we know, I don't know how many there are. I think there's about 30. How many indriyas are there, Ajahn? I think there's well in the 30s or something like that. Quite a few of them. Sorry?
22.
22, sorry, yeah, 22, that's it, sorry. So there are many different types of indriya, but they do refer to the paths and fruits.
And just on the question of meaning, I'm just looking at something in the Visuddhimagga. It explains indriya in terms of rulership, being like a ruler, or another word they use is predominance or predominant, but the literal meaning is apparently related to the term ruler, exercises sovereignty, I suppose, over.
Totally, yeah, that's I think that's exactly right. And again, referring to, yeah, sovereignty.
And we have to add a ruler, each in its own field. We have to add that.
I'm not. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Nina? Each in its own field. What do you mean by that? Or relating to the particular? Yeah, just please say more to that.
Yeah, like seeing. Seeing is indriya in its own field of seeing, not in the field of hearing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Any feeling is a strong or powerful or indriya. So pleasant bodily feeling, unpleasant bodily feeling, indifferent feeling, pleasant feeling, mental feeling, or unpleasant mental feeling. Any Vedana is a leader in its own way.
It's powerful to rule over the other reality arising together.
Powerful to rule over the other realities it arises together with, yes.
Can the Mahabhuta Rupa be indriya? Even it's the primary rupas, but it's not the powerful indriya. But for Jakku Prasada, it is indriya. Overall, the other reality in seeing or of seeing, or at that very moment. That's why the understanding of the nature of it is more important, because no word can fit the meaning in all aspects.
One friend has a question he'd like to ask. Dave, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I would like to say about something more on it. Indriya. Without indriya of each of characteristics, only when we know real characteristics, if indriya is strong in particular matter. So without indriya, we cannot sense anything in this world. That is what I understood.
To think about each indriya, how it is indriya, each one. For example, the Mahabhuta Rupa cannot be indriya at all. But the Jakku Prasada, Sota Prasada, Kana Prasada, Shivha Prasada, so important, so powerful in their own function, or overrule the other, as it is a function of Jakun, see, or Maninsi, see, in its own way of functioning. For example, now, what is Indriya at moment of seeing? See, not just the Jakku Pasata, even the feeling there is Indriya as well. Because it rule over other reality at moment when it's so pleasant or so painful. You don't think about anything else, just that, very important.
Obsessed by the unpleasant feeling or the pleasant feeling.
Even Thomanasa and Tukindriya is Indriya. At moment when it's there, it overrules or other reality arising together.
And the one, yes, and the other one that Ajahn just mentioned, she gave the Thai Maninsi. This is the chitta, the mano, the chitta, which is also an indriya. So every chitta is an indriya. So at the moment of seeing, the eye sense is an indriya, the feeling is an indriya, and the chitta itself is an indriya.
Because at moment of seeing, Manindriya is Indriya, because it can experience the object so clearly than the other mental factor which arises with it. And
Ajahn?
at moment, there's also a feeling as Indriya as well, in its own way, at moment of feeling. It overrules the other by feeling such and such, painful or pleasant.
Indifferent feeling is seen unclear.
Yes, because it cannot be present or unpleasant. It has to be that
indifferent.
ubekha, indriya, ubekindriya.
Ajahn Cup. What I'm noticing also, iti indriyam, purisindriyam, what makes them powers?
Characteristic. Because without Jakundriya, nothing can appear now, which is seen. Nothing is seen. Without Mindriya and Jakundriya.
That I can understand. That I can understand, but I'm just thinking about iti indriyam and purisindriyam.
Can you change it?
No, it cannot. I see. Cannot be changed.
Femininity rupas. Yes.
Yeah, I understand that, Sarah.
No,
yeah,
I'm explaining to other people familiar with the Pali terms.
Oh, I see. You made an interesting point before, Tanajan, about the Mahabhutas not being Indriya, but they seem very predominant, very powerful. So I'm curious why aren't they Indriya?
Because it's just that which arises as a primary rupa for the other rupas to derive or arise. Without it, the other rupa cannot arise at all. But it cannot be powerful in any time of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling at all. Right? At this moment of feeling pleasant, what is the function of the four primary rupas? It's there, not powerful to condition present feeling.
Thank you,
Okay,
Tanajan.
want to come in again? This is your question, I think. Please go ahead.
Yeah, there you've got your hand up. Did you want to follow on from your?
Yeah, in a nutshell, can we say that without India we cannot experience any, whether it's a Vedna, Sanya, whatever sense door is there. We cannot experience without Indriya is in the picture. Is it right?
I'm not sure if I quite understand what you're saying, but I think you're saying in the development of the path and development of understanding, it's not possible without the development of the Indriyas. So
Right.
when Panya arises at the level of Satipatthana to directly understand the object, it is at that moment Indriya, and the Virya at that moment is Indriya, and Sati is Indriya, and the Sada is Indriya. So at those moments, they directly experience the object with right understanding. And this is the development of the path that leads to enlightenment. So what you say is correct, that impossible to develop the path without the Indriyas, without these, these realities which are Indriyas. I hope I understood your question.
Yeah, I understood. And moreover, Jivit Indriya is connect with each and every Chitta and Chitta Sekha, and then we can experience anything. So, Jivit Indriya and other Indriya is how it is connected.
And the most important point is that these Indriyas don't belong to anyone. So it's not I or you or anyone that develops Indriyas at all. The understanding develops by conditions on and on and on until it becomes an Indriya strong enough to directly understand the object appearing well, different from when there's intellectual understanding. And the Sati develops on and on and on until it is directly aware of the reality and so on. So they don't belong to anyone. It's not my awareness or my understanding that develops, and no one can do anything to have Indriyas. The conditions are the very careful considering and reflecting about dharmas like now, conditioning the understanding to develop on and on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David.
Yeah, thanks.
We've just got a few minutes left, so I'll just see if Ajahn would like to add more, first of all.
Shall we consider more about Indriya later? One by one, so there can be a moment of understanding why there are such Indriya in such moment. Without it, impossible for that moment to be of sense. And for Vedana, we can consider one by one. For feeling, it overrules the other reality. When it's dukkha, see, even the present object has no meaning at all. At moment of dukkha is there. So it is a reality which is Indriya by way of feeling overall other moment, other things like wealth or anything. No matter how much one is so very, very understanding person or whatever, but at that time, feeling is very important. No meaning for being so smart. At the moment when dukkha is there. So consider just feeling, it's an Indriya. And Chitta, Manindriya, one by one, little by little. And what else? Femininity, masculinity, not very difficult to get. And what else? Sati, Viriya, Samadhi, Panya, at that level, overrule at the level of Sati. Because it can directly aware of what is there. Now there can be Sati, but when it's not Satipatthana, it doesn't overrule ignorance and attachment. But when it's Satipatthana, it's greater than that, because it overrules the moment of being attached or ignorant. or only intellectual understanding. That's why sati at level of intellectual understanding is not as powerful as when it's moment of directly aware of a reality. And more when it's Padiveda. And from Indriya, it can be a moment of phala. No matter what is there, phala is great.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Just begin to understand the meaning of each word. Consider whether it's powerful, different level. Panya now is not as powerful as when it is Pandindriya, because it can directly aware with understanding of that which now appears normally, but no understanding, and then normally understanding. So we can talk about many subjects, but a little understanding of each when there's no careful considering the reality. And this is the only way to let go ignorance, attachment, wrong understanding, taking whatever now appears as something permanent.
Okay, I think we'll continue tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock our time for anyone who can join us just for the morning tomorrow.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice day.